Hey, is that folk music that you play there? What is that? How do you call that folk music?
I think it was Studs Terkel who asked Big Bill Brunzi, did he consider his blues music to be folk music? And Big Bill says, well, never heard no horses.
Don't hesitate. It could be your ticket to a new tomorrow.
Tell old Bill when he come home this morning. Tell old Bill when he come home this evening. Tell old Bill when he come home, better leave them downtown girls alone this morning. This evening so soon. Bill left here about 8:30 this morning. Bill left here about 8:30 this evening. Bill left here about 8:30. He left here by the old front gate this morning. This evening so soon. I was home, she was baking bread this morning. I was home, she was baking bread this evening. I was home, she was baking bread. She heard the news, her Bill was dead this morning. This evening so soon. She said, oh no, that can't be so this morning. Oh no, that can't be so this evening. Oh no, that can't be so. My Bill left here about an hour ago this morning. This evening so soon. Well, they brought Bill home in the hurry up wagon this morning. They brought Bill home in the hurry up wagon this evening. Brought Bill home in the hurry up wagon. Poor old Bill, how his toes was dragging this morning. This evening so soon. Tell old Bill when he come home this morning. Tell old Bill when he come home this evening. Tell old Bill when he come home, better leave them downtown girls alone this morning. This evening so soon. Thank you.
All right, the show is Horses Sing None of It. My name is Ralph Litwin, and our guest is David Massengill.
Ralph, it's
our
nice
old
to be
friend.
back here. Good to see you again.
It's been, I think, over 10 years since we last had a visit with
I
David.
think it was about 10 years ago. I like that shirt.
You're
I like
about
it.
the fourth person to tell me that this evening.
Is that right? Well,
Popular shirt.
I guess I'm. Well, we all must be of a like mind then. You know, I've got a guitar here, a Gibson, as you mentioned. That last song was a traditional song, and I used to hear Dave Van Ronk do it. It used to be one of his big songs. And I've got a new record out where I do a bunch of songs in tribute to Dave, and that's one of them. Dave made many songs so famous. His versions of songs, if you heard his version, that was the one that gave you poetry through the rest of your life. Dave took me out touring many times and really stood up for me. He used to say, I took the dull out of dulcimer, which is kind of nice. And I didn't even play guitar at the time, when my first tour with Dave. And I remember we were coming back from a month and a half out on the road. We've gone out to California, up to Canada, and come back. We were about 50 miles outside of New York City, and I said, Dave, you know, you haven't been paying me much money. Maybe you can give me a little more money than what you promised me. And he says, you know, your bargaining position would have been a lot stronger if you brought this up outside of Utah. And so he didn't give me any more money. But he gave me something better. He said, you know, you need to play the guitar, so I'll give you 5 lessons. And so he showed me he said, I'll show you the cowboy chords. So after 5 lessons, he said, congratulations, you're now a bad guitar player. And I tell you, I was so proud to be a bad guitar player. And so now I've started writing some things for the last 15 years, I guess. And I wrote on this new record, which is called We Will Be Together, I wrote 2 tribute songs, plus 2 songs that were his, that he made famous. One is called Talkin' Dave Van Ronk Blues, and I had several dreams about Dave, and I combined them and put them into this song. So let me do it. Talkin' Dave Van Ronk Blues. I had a dream the other night. Dave Van Ronk was welcome sight. I said, where you been, my old friend? He said, I've been up in heaven drinking gin, red wine, moonshine. Everything's top shelf. Well, Dave pulled out a couple of cigars. We had nice smoke, looked up at the stars. We could not help but philosophize, and as always, Dave Van Ronk was very wise. Kind of like that Buddha dude, Lao Tzu, Honorable Dr. Seuss. He said, I always did think it odd how some folks say there's only one true God, when actually it's God by committee, and non-believers sit just as pretty as anybody else. So relax, just live a good life. 'Cause all those zealots so full of grace, they end up in the other place, and those that claim to be snow pure, they get the job of shoveling manure. And as there's no lack of source material, they got to work overtime. Well, Dave chug-a-lugged his whiskey jug, then he give me a big bear hug. That's when he said he loved me, man, and I heard all about his little plan to turn this old world upside down. First, Dave and Trotsky and Jesse James gonna all meet up in Mark Twain's cave, and then they're gonna pull a job to liberate all the thingamabobs, the doohickeys, the thingamajigs, not to mention the whatchamacallits. It's de rigueur. They'll storm the Bastille, then everybody's gonna share a big meal. Of course, there'll be an open bar while Dave Van Ronk plays the guitar, singing Hesitation Blues. And that's my idea of heaven. There's nothing too good for the working class. Yes, it may well be a mortal sin But I told Dave Van Ronk to count me in. Right then and there I made a pact. I always have Dave Van Ronk's back. 'Cause I love him too, man. To be a wandering troubadour, it has a certain esprit de corps. It's not for the wealth, it's not for the fame. It's to be as one and part of the flame. The cause goes on. But speaking of flames, that Joan of Arc is one hot chick. Well, Dave tipped his hat and began to ascend. With tears in my eyes, I called after him. He said, "Don't worry, kid, I'll be right back. I'm just going for another 6-pack. So keep on dreaming. Keep dreaming. Sweet dreams, Dave."
Very lovely, David.
That's something I lit another song about Dave called Dave Van Ronk's Last Cigar. His wife Andrea saw me at a party soon after David passed on and had cleaned out the refrigerator and found his last cigar. And Dave taught me how to smoke a cigar, and I had many fond memories of meals with him and so forth. And so I saved that cigar for a special moment, and I shared it with Cliff Eberhardt out in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we buried it under a little bush in a park in downtown Grand Rapids. And if you're ever in that park in Grand Rapids, you'll know what bush it is. It's the bush that looks like it's just about to burst into flame. Now here on this little picture here, that's me and Dave. That's many years ago, but we're sharing a night together, and that's the kind of the CD. And on the cover of it, we have Dave Van Ronk Street. And there was a wonderful couple years ago when we got Dave street named after him. And that's the apartment building that Andrea still lives. That he and Andrea lived there. He lived there for over 30 years. And so a bunch of us. And so you heard in that song Trotsky and Jesse James. There's Jesse James, and there's Mark Twain, and there's Trotsky, and all kinds of other people. And so that's my idea. Now, my next little thing I'd like to do here is to show you a little picture book. I go into schools all the time, so if anybody's out there that's got a school with budget, I teach kids how to make these little picture books. This is an 8-page picture book that I have. And I also make these 32-page ones that I have a little fun doing. That's called an accordion book. And this is the cover of it. It's called Three Godfathers from Planet X. If you ever saw that John Ford, John Wayne movie called Three Godfathers, it's my version of it. It's just a space adventure. Now here's the little book I'm going to do, and then I'll sing the song for you. This is a kid's song. It's kind of a fairy song. And I was talking to these kids about animals that stay in love forever. They're mate forever. So like everybody knows about the dolphins. They mate forever. And I call that forever love. I call this song. And also wolves. So here's some wolves on the beach, and here's a mother with her child. Now also there are penguins and geese. Now I thought penguins mated for life, but actually I saw that movie, and it turns out they're in the 1-year plan. So they're true blue for that 1 year, but that's it.
Serial monogamy.
Yeah. And I asked also the kids if they knew any animals that mated for life, because I only knew 5 at the time. And this little boy said, anacondas. I said, really? Anacondas? He said, and king cobras too. So I just liked his attitude about it. So I decided to put anacondas, and I just took his word for it. Didn't look up to see if it's true. So there's an anaconda, and there's a king cobra, and a woman with a burqa is offering an apple to the anaconda. It's kind of symbolic and ironic. I might be getting into trouble for doing that drawing. Also, there's whales. Some whales mate for life, and swans. And here's some gloves that are my mamaw's gloves, matching gloves. Also, here's jackals. mate for life. Did you know that?
I did not know
Jackals
that.
mate for life, and here they're very egalitarian because all these other animals, the mice, they play the field, so they're pretty. And the turtles and the lizards and the bunny rabbits, enough said. So it just shows how open-minded they are to share that oasis with them. Also falcons, and here this couple has just gone over a waterfall. They didn't realize the waterfall was there. And we have falcons. Not falcons, I said that before. We have foxes there in their den. And finally, this is the last little picture. Here's the couple, and they've gone up into outer space in their hot air balloon. And of course, children will challenge you on this thing. And the little boy said to me, the same one that had the anaconda, said, "That's impossible. There's no oxygen in outer space." And I said, "Well, actually, when you're in love, they're holding their breath, because when you're in love, you get used to holding your breath." So I had to come up with an answer for that little boy. So now I'll play the little song called Forever Love that was helped along by these children. And I help children write songs too, so I hope there's somebody in the school district that would like me to do that for them. Love, forever love, forever love, forever love. A mother and her newborn child, wolves that wander in the wild, dolphins swimming in the sea. It's how I want the world to be. I guess I caught a case of cutes, like penguins in tuxedo suits, where geese are flying high above. There's room for more forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Forever love. The anaconda is true blue, so lovingly it squeezes you. King Cobra, on the other hand, prefers the fruit of lotus land. While whales are dreaming of Don Juan, behold the swans of Babylon. My mamma found a matching glove, for her it was forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Though jackals prey upon the weak, sometimes they turn the other cheek. For peace on earth was unheard of until they tried forever love. As you go down the waterfall, just in time a falcon's claw, the blessed beast would not let go until you stand safe below. There waiting in the fox's den is just the one to lick your chin. At break of day, a morning dove is omen of forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Forever love. Thank you. And thanks to Dave Van Ronk for showing me the cowboy chords, which I played them. Now,
Let's let people know how to get in touch with you and find out more information about your recordings, your touring schedule, and how to get you for their school and that kind of thing.
Brilliant.
David Massengill
Brilliant.
at yahoo.com,
davidmassengill@yahoo.com.
or go to www.davidmassengill.com.
That's right. And you'll find some of my things listed there, and can get in touch with me or my representatives. I have two dulcimers here, both made by Edsel Martin. Now that one, right, that's my concert one, and that's the one that my mom picked out many years ago. And my new record is actually dedicated to George McGovern, who ran for president in 1972 as the Democratic candidate. And I loved his talks, and I just agreed with everything he said. I was in college at the time reading Hunter Thompson. And I went, man, if that guy gets close to it, I'm going to go work for him. So I took a year off of school from the University of North Carolina, and I went to work for George McGovern. And it was a defeat, but it's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. But after that defeat, I needed something to restore my soul. And I remember my mom had bought a dulcimer for us children many, many years before when I was a kid. And had offered it to us and said, whoever learns to play it can have it. And we looked at it, and there it is. There's the one. And none of us, we admired it, but none of us learned to play it. So it went under my mom's bed, my mom and dad's bed, and it stayed there for years. And then after the campaign with George McGovern, I needed something. So I went home and said, is that dulcimer under the bed? And I got it out and claimed it and learned to play it. So I often give George McGovern, Senator George McGovern, credit for getting me started as a folk singer. And I dedicate this record to George McGovern, and I tell a couple funny stories about it. And I've seen him recently. Actually, here's a little picture of him. He's right here, the top picture, the tallest man. And on the inside, there's a black and white picture that when he was here last year. And he kindly let me take a picture with him. And he's really cool. And he had his coat off and he was very cool. It was a film that was about his campaign called One Bright Shining Moment. And I was at that debut. It was so exciting to see him. And so anyway, recently I found another Edsel Martin. My mother had bought that dulcimer because he was known as the best dulcimer maker at the time. And later on I got to meet Edsel. He's a mountain man, never had anything like a phone, never had a phone. I said, Edsel, why don't you have a phone? He said, phone rings at night, bad news. And every time I go around, people meet him that are whittlers, you know, and he whittled like Michelangelo would whittle. Things are exactly, that's what a hound dog looks like. That's what a mountain woman looks like, exactly. It's not a caricature. So if Michelangelo was a whittler, that's what he would whittle like. Well, Edsel's things are just like that. And somebody just recently told me a story. He was a whittler himself and went up to his door, finally found him, and he said, it was so proud to meet him because he was the best. And he said, Edsel, are you busy? Edsel says, why, I was just about to button up my shirt. So if anybody ever asks you if you're busy, now repeat this with me. Say, why, I was just about to button up my shirt. That's a good way to say it. Now, often when I would visit Edsel, his shirt would be unbuttoned. So everything that he said had a kind of a thing in truth. So I have this other Edsel dulcimer that I found last year. Whoops. It's not quite, its concert is my other one, but it's pretty good. And it's a nice tuning to do this other song. This is also on the new record, and it's about a bus driver, my favorite bus driver. My brother Mike and I used to love this bus driver because he drove the football team, high school football team, to all the away games, and he knew all the players. And we could talk to him about the football players and the games and so forth when we were just little kids. Also, he was so safe when he drove. Going up in East Tennessee, a lot of mountains and knobs, what we call small mountains or knobs. And we go up this big knob, and then we'd have to go down it in the snow. But you never felt scared when he was driving. Also, we'd never be there at the bottom of the hill. He would take a left, and then he would see that we weren't at the mailbox, and he'd honk the horn to let us know to run down the hill. So he never left us behind. He always sort of slowed down, and we'd like run down the hill and get there by the time he got to our mailbox. He was a heck of a guy. And I wrote this song after 9/11. It's not a 9/11 song, but I needed to write a song that could restore my soul, just like with George McGovern. I needed something to restore my soul after that defeat. And I remembered Mr. Penley, and I wrote this song for him. It's called Penley at the Wheel, and it's dedicated to all the service people that drive buses, that do that kind of thing. You change people's lives. You make an impression on people, and I just want you to know that. Bill Penley did on me. Penley at the Wheel. Besides my mother and my dad, my heroes were few, but one who was the bus driver that drove us to school. And when we weren't there, he'd honk the horn and we'd run down the hill. We're never left behind with Penley at the wheel. One day he noticed my black eye from underneath my hat. I'd tried to cover up, you see, but Penley said, "What's that? Did you have a fight with your brother? A shiner should be seen, as long as you shook hands and made up in between." Sometimes I'd pay my fare and then just stand right there so we could shoot the breeze and count the maple trees. He had the best job in the world a boy can only dream. Not only did he drive us kids, he drove the football team. He knew all their names, even the second string, and it gave me a thrill. It sure was fun to ride with Penley at the wheel. Once when they lost, I asked how did they stand up to defeat. They held their heads up high like kings. Then he said, "Wait till next week." Now I take in stride some of Penley's pride.